November 23, 1930. The wind howled across the frozen wasteland of northern Canada as Royal Canadian Mounted Police Constable Joe LaBelle guided his dog sled through the treacherous terrain toward Anjikuni Lake. What should have been a routine supply run to the remote Inuit village was about to become one of the most disturbing unsolved mysteries in modern history. LaBelle had made this journey dozens of times before, always welcomed by the warm glow of oil lamps and the sounds of children playing in the snow. But as his sled crested the final ridge overlooking the settlement, something was terribly wrong. The village was silent, completely, unnaturally silent. Where there should have been smoke rising from chimneys, there was nothing. Where there should have been the barking of sled dogs and the chatter of daily life, there was only the whisper of wind through empty doorways. LaBelle's own dogs began to whimper, sensing something their master couldn't yet comprehend. He urged them forward, down the slope toward what had once been home to over 2,000 Inuit people. The first hut LaBelle approached still had food cooking over a cold fire pit. The meal had been abandoned mid-preparation, with chunks of caribou meat still suspended over the extinguished flames. Steam should have been rising from the pot, but instead, everything was frozen solid. He called out in both English and Inuktitut, his voice echoing off the empty structures. No response. He moved to the next dwelling, then the next. Each told the same impossible story, lives interrupted in the middle of ordinary moments. Inside one hut, children's toys lay scattered across the floor as if they had been playing just moments before. Warm furs were still draped over sleeping areas, suggesting people had been resting comfortably. In another dwelling, a woman's sewing project remained half-finished, the bone needle still threaded, positioned exactly as if she had simply stepped outside for a moment and never returned. But it wasn't just the people who were gone. Every single dog had vanished. In Inuit culture, sled dogs were more than animals. They were lifelines, essential for survival in the harsh Arctic environment. No one would abandon their dogs, ever. LaBelle's training as a Mountie kicked in, and he began searching for signs of struggle, evidence of what might have happened. He found none. There were no bloodstains, no signs of violence, no indication that anyone had packed belongings or prepared for departure. The kayaks and sleds were still there, lined up along the shore of the frozen lake, exactly where they should be. Food supplies remained untouched in storage areas. Most disturbing of all, the rifles, essential tools for hunting and protection, were still propped against walls inside the huts. As darkness began to fall, LaBelle made a discovery that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The village graveyard, traditionally a sacred and undisturbed place, had been completely emptied. Not just recently deceased bodies, but graves that had been there for generations. The frozen ground showed clear signs of excavation, but by whom and why remained a mystery. Stones that had marked burial sites for decades lay scattered and displaced. It was as if someone or something had methodically removed every trace of the dead. The temperature was dropping rapidly, and LaBelle knew he couldn't stay in the abandoned village overnight. The psychological weight of the empty settlement was becoming unbearable, and his dogs were growing increasingly agitated. He made camp several miles away and sent word back to headquarters via his radio. The message was brief, but chilling. Anjikuni Lake Village completely abandoned. Population of 2,000 vanished. No signs of struggle. Requesting immediate assistance. Within 48 hours, a full investigation team arrived at the site. What they found defied explanation. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police had dealt with missing persons cases before, isolated incidents in the vast wilderness where individuals might disappear without a trace. But an entire community? It was unprecedented. The lead investigator, Sergeant Mills, had 20 years of experience in the Arctic and had never encountered anything remotely similar. The investigation team began documenting everything methodically. They photographed the abandoned meals, the scattered toys, the empty dog kennels. They interviewed other Inuit communities in the region, searching for any information about where the Anjikuni Lake people might have gone. The responses were consistent and troubling. No one had seen them. No neighboring villages had received visitors. No trading posts had recorded interactions with anyone from Anjikuni Lake in the weeks leading up to the disappearance. But the investigators uncovered something even more disturbing. Radio communications logs from other northern settlements revealed strange reports in the days before the discovery. Trappers and hunters across a wide area had reported seeing unusual lights in the sky, bright blue-white illuminations that moved in patterns unlike anything they had ever witnessed. Some described a low humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Most had dismissed these as aurora borealis, or unusual weather phenomena, but the timing was impossible to ignore. A week into the investigation, a trapper named Henrik Peterson came forward with information that changed everything. 3 nights before Constable Lebel's discovery, Peterson had been checking his trap lines approximately 30 miles southeast of Anjikuni Lake when he witnessed something that defied explanation. Around 2 a.m., he saw what he described as lights like stars but moving in formation directly over the area where the village was located. The lights, he said, pulsed in a rhythm that reminded him of a heartbeat, growing brighter and dimmer in perfect synchronization. Peterson's account might have been dismissed as the hallucination of a man alone too long in the wilderness, except for one crucial detail. He had brought his camera on this particular trip, hoping to photograph wildlife for a magazine back east. In his rush to document what he was seeing, he managed to capture several frames before the lights disappeared. When the film was developed, it showed clear, undeniable evidence of unusual aerial phenomena over Anjikuni Lake. The photographs sparked intense debate within the investigation team. Some argued they showed natural atmospheric conditions, possibly rare forms of aurora activity. Others couldn't explain the geometric patterns and coordinated movement captured in the images. But there was another detail in Peterson's testimony that no one could ignore. After the lights disappeared, he had heard what sounded like a massive group of people singing in harmony, voices carrying across the frozen landscape from the direction of the village. The singing lasted for nearly an hour, then stopped as abruptly as it had begun. News of the disappearance began to spread beyond official channels, and soon the story reached newspapers across North America. Reporters from as far away as New York and Los Angeles traveled to the remote location, eager to document what was being called the Great Vanishing. But by the time media attention peaked, the investigation had reached a dead end. Every lead had been exhausted, every theory tested and found inadequate. The official report, filed 3 months after the initial discovery, was frustratingly inconclusive. It documented the facts. An entire Inuit community of approximately 2,000 people had vanished without a trace, leaving behind all their possessions, food, and survival equipment. The graves had been disturbed, though no bodies were ever found. Multiple witnesses had reported unusual atmospheric phenomena in the area around the time of the disappearance. Beyond these facts, the report offered no explanation and no theory that could account for all the evidence.